name is Lean, and we're here for our first time with a video podcast. We hope you like it, and today we have two special guests, Lupe and Buddy. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing well, and it's an honor to be on the show.
It's our pleasure having you on the show.
Cool.
So, Buddy is an alumni. He was an electrical engineering student, and he is doing his BS and MS program right now. Do you want to add to it?
Yeah, so my name is Buddy Agumba. I graduated March of 2023. 2022, sorry, the years. So I
Yeah, it's
graduated
fine.
March of 2022 with a BS degree in electrical engineering with a focus on communication and signal processing. I worked at TTP as a peer mentor and lead data mentor during my time here. Got to do a lot of research. So after I spent some time in industry, I decided to come back and continue my education. So I enrolled in the BS plus MS program, and I'm having a lot of fun, and I'm just here to share my experience with you guys.
It's great to have you back. It's really nice to see you back in the TTP. I've also worked with Buddy for a whole year, or 2 quarters
Yeah.
specifically, but it was a great pleasure, and I'm always proud to say like, oh, I have Buddy as a friend
Cool.
and as a resource that I can use and talk to from time to time.
Yep.
Then we have Lupe. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Lupe. I've been here in the College of Engineering supporting transfer students for some time, and so now we have a space where we can come together and look to our alumni, and I'm so glad that Buddy's here and that you guys have such a good relationship together, so thank you for having me.
Thank you for stopping by today and being part of the podcast. Starting off, our main theme for this week is going to be pushing through and just your experience with how you got from community college, which community you transferred from, and once you got here to UCR, what are some of the obstacles that you faced, and how you pushed through them in a sense. Like, I know for me, every person, they have their own different obstacles, and how they push through them would be different from one person to another. But today we want to know more about you, and as an electrical engineering student, going into your BS and MS program, how did it all? And how did you choose to do your? Oh, we'll go into that later. But
Okay,
it's a
yeah.
lot of questions I know I've thrown at you. But
No,
we
no.
can take it step by step.
Okay, so so basically, I'm a non-traditional student in all sense of the word. So my first obstacle was just was finishing community college. There were so many times, that I started, maybe took 1 or 2 classes, didn't go back for a while. I really made the decision to really go back to school and focus in 2016. So that's when I went back to community college, and just, I didn't have a car at the time, so I was taking the bus a lot. So those things were important, knowing the bus transportation and the routes. And I was just taking a lot of classes to catch up. And then when I was supposed to transfer, I just got really burnt out of school, and I kind of pulled back a little bit. I was supposed to transfer in 2018, so I pulled back from school a little bit to do, focus on myself. So that was another obstacle I had to push through. Then I ended up returning back 2019, finished up my last few classes, which was like physics, 202, electricity, magnetism, multivariable calculus. Finished those classes, finally transferred, got accepted into UCR. It was so excellent when I got into UCR. Then I got accepted into the Summer Bridge to Research program, which was something that UCR was offering. This allowed me to, even before I took classes in the summer, work, be on campus, understand what the campus is about, create community and create friends, because other students who transferred were also inside of the program. I got professional development. I got to make connections with lab PIs, with other lab PIs and my own PI. So I got to do research, and and I was paid like stacks, like 5 bands, So that was dope. 2,500 first half, 2,500 second half. I won the best presentation award. So it was just, thank you. So that was dope. Like, that was really fun. And then school started, and then I was just riding that wave. But I don't know, I really wasn't prepared for like the quarter shift from semester to quarter. So and I didn't. Ironically enough, I didn't even come to TTP. I didn't even use TTP. It was like they paid me and I ditched them. You know, I don't know why.
That's cold,
Lupe
buddy.
kept
You left me hanging dry.
I know that was a huge reason, a huge part of why I struggled so much in the first quarter was I didn't use my resources. I tried to do it alone, and I didn't do well. And then I ended up failing 2 classes and getting that letter that's like, oh, if you don't change your grade, we're gonna kick you out. So then I was very like
Yeah, that's real.
like worried, like, man, I worked this hard just to get this far, just to not make it. So then I really tightened up game, tightened myself up, reached out to my resources, reached out to Lupe, reached out to other people in the center. They gave me advice as far as time management because, I was commuting at the time and there were other students that were commuting and other students who had families because I have a family, I have kids, I have a wife, I have other things on my table too. So once they gave me the advice and I started using my resources, I started doing really well, really well, really well. I still was able to maintain my relationship with my lab PI, so I'm able to continue research, still continue research. That came with a lot of perks. And then I graduated, and then I was looking for a job, and then I realized, oh man, maybe I should have paid a little bit more attention in my classes. I mean, I graduated with a good GPA, but still, like, I didn't really internalize the information. I didn't make it a part of me. I just did what I needed to do to pass. So it was in and out. So when I was interviewing for jobs, and they were saying, oh, these are what they were gonna interview me on, I had to really go back to my notes or whatever. Side note, should have used the career center when I was about to graduate and went there and had them interview prepare me so I wouldn't have done it on my own, which is a big thing about knowing what your resources are so that when you have these obstacles, you know what to do, you're not taking it on your own. So then I finally did that. Got denied a whole bunch of jobs, but I kept applying. Really was feeling bad because once you go through interviews and it seems that they like you and then they tell you no and then it's like,
It
oh
hurts.
man, like wow. So then I finally got a job. It was an excellent job. And then I went into the place and I realized that I was really unprepared for the job. I felt like imposter syndrome. Maybe I was being too hard on myself, but I wasn't I guess I expected myself to just be like, oh yeah, this is definitely how you fix the problem. This is what you do. You basically do this. And that wasn't really realistic, right? But I had a great team at Amazon who I work with, who supported me, who always answered my questions. But it just kind of felt weird too because there wasn't a lot of people who looked like me, who were from my background, So just finding that mentorship that I needed, at my first job was kind of difficult as well. And I kind of felt isolated in that a little bit, but that was like an obstacle, but I pushed through, still gave 100%. Then I came back to school and now it's I'm still managing my family, managing being broke because, I'm back at school now I'm broke, well, not broke, but I'm not making industry money, so, so I'm managing that. So, yeah, that's kind of like my synopsis of my roadmap, I think.
I loved how you kind of summarized all of it together and you gave us a quick breeze through. And honestly, just you saying all of that, kind of reflecting back on it, it's like, I'm really happy that I've worked with you, and it kind of gave me like a heads up on what to expect. And then now you telling me like, oh, when you got into the industry, because I'll be going to this industry very soon. I'm just like, kind of knowing what to expect because I was like, yeah, I mean, I have a good GPA, but when I get there, how is it really gonna be? Is what I learn. I'm gonna be like, yeah, am I gonna apply that? But honestly, for the most part, I might even not remember most of it. So, having, as you said, someone to talk to and referring back, a mentor at the job, finding people that you can connect with is a good essential to have.
Yes.
Going back to, I know you've transferred here in 2019, right?
Yes.
And then the pandemic hit right after.
Yes.
Would that be one of the big obstacles that you faced, or was it other people who thought that the pandemic was actually a support or something that helped them?
For me, the pandemic, it was both, right? Because there's nothing like studying with people physically, right? Like when you're in an environment where everyone is learning, it kind of gets your juices flowing to move, right? So when you're just at home and you're in the same scenery, it's hard to really motivate yourself. Yeah, we were trying as a team at TTP as much as we could to get people on, together online during Zoom, but all the other social factors, like what's your personal life like, what's it like at home, what are your finances, what's the medical situation with people in your family. So that was really difficult, and just staying motivated in that time was extremely difficult. And I leaned a lot on my resources. I leaned on my team. I leaned on you guys. I leaned on Lupe. I leaned on people that I menteed and asked them, hey, what are you guys doing to stay motivated? And I started doing like the tomato technique, which is like 20 minutes of studying.
And then 10-minute break.
Yeah, I think the Pompadour. What is it?
Pomodoro
technique. Yeah, I started doing that, and I got that from a guy named Chris, who I mentored, who was a CE. So that was a lot of these things were it was difficult, but I think the most important thing is to find what your passion is. Like, why did you start? Why are you in engineering? What does it take to build that passion and then work with that and put that in your focus during those tough times? That's why I really feel like the internship, that's why I feel like I wish I would have done internships in the summer instead of taking more classes, because, even though I went to Amazon and I felt like I was underprepared, just the stuff that I was doing was so cool and I was so hands-on with it. It made me like, all right, now I'm going back to school. Okay, now this is where I'm gonna apply this at. Like, I really got to see it. I mean, the labs are cool, but the labs are kind of like, you just know it's not. You just feel like it's not as big as working in an industry. When you see the robots, you see $1 million worth of equipment, you see deadlines and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Wouldn't you almost say that it's almost kind of like getting uncomfortable with not knowing and pushing through the unknown? Because a lot of the times you were in spaces that you didn't know how to navigate the college experience, how to navigate the university, how to navigate finding a job, what that looks like in the interview, being in the workforce in the industry, and then coming back. So how often would you say you're in the space of pushing through uncomfortable, unknown territory?
I mean, all the time, right? Like all the time. And it's such a tough thing, because it's like, how do you balance that? How do you use that? How you remain realistic, right, with that, and then use that as fuel, right? Like, being African American, I look. There was times where I would look at my class like, damn, I'm the only black kid in here. Like, I know race is not like the center, but it is a point, because people find community with those who are alike, initially, and then once they feel safe in that space through mutual contact, then they branch out, and then they start being, willing to, open and connect with others. And then when you don't see that, it becomes such a big barrier, because, when different ethnicities or different cultures meet, there's different communication styles.
Yeah.
There's different, social cues that other people may not be hip to. So, I was always, that's just an example of just one kind of space. But it's like I'm saying, like, you gotta lean on your resources. You gotta know where your resources are at. You gotta come to your team. You gotta find people who you feel comfortable in confiding to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now, and and take their advice and heed their advice. Get that off your shoulders, and try to push forward. Remember, again, what you're here for, what your goals are. Maybe if your goal is too big, maybe you need to chop it up into smaller goals, and maybe just take that piece off. But just always be dynamic in your approach to things, to try not to get static. Always be willing to change and adjust.
That's great advice. I definitely kind of feel or relate to the part where you being like the only Muslim in the class, or the only hijabi in the class between a lot of guys, and I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm not really in the right spot, But the thing that kept me pushing, specifically, is that I'm like, I'm just doing it for me, and I'll just continue pushing through, no matter what others say or what other people think. If you have your end goal right there and you just push through it, you're just like, I'm gonna get there whether people like it or not. I'm gonna do it for me.
Yes.
I'm not doing it for other people. So.
And you're doing it.
I am. I'm almost graduating.
Yes.
So.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
you have offers lined up too, Lane. So you can put in the work. Let's not forget.
Honestly, I know sometimes it's hard to continue from my personal experience. It might be sometimes you'll find things that stop you, or kind of add, I don't know, bumps to your way, and you're like, okay, maybe this is not for me, but just take the time, stop, reflect, see why you started it again. Why did you start it? What is your end goal from it? And why are you continuing? So that's my personal way of okay, I need to take that step back, and then that gives you the momentum again to push through, and you're like, I don't see anyone, I just see my end goal right there. So definitely
you can always reset your mental frame. You can you have the right to reset. Like, okay, let me take a breathe. Let me look at what I'm doing and change it. At any time, you can always reset that part.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to just stay stuck doing the same pattern.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that. That's possible.
Exactly.
So I have a question regarding your job experience, and what was that experience like for you, and what are some key lessons that then motivated you to say, okay, now I see the picture of coming back to graduate school and being able to apply that and finding those learning lessons?
Key moments I would say is like knowing that everybody there doesn't, like, there's teams there, right? People ask other people for questions, right? Like, I mean, other people for help from different teams, like, and that it's a collaborative experience, and that it's good to really know who you're working with and who you're around. Because whenever I didn't have a question or I needed a supply, because I worked in a lab, so sometimes things would go missing, equipment I'd be looking for equipment, or we couldn't find equipment, or we needed help doing certain things. I could always go to somebody and they would be like, oh, well, go to John. John knows this, or John could get that. So that's a big thing, is just, I feel like when you get into the workplace, try to know who's who, and develop friends with people in different departments. Don't say, oh, because I don't work with them. Like, if you see somebody carrying a huge box or something, walk over to them and help them, take the box to their department and ask them what they do, because you never know when, you might need their resources or their connection to get a job done, because, your boss might give you something that's you don't even know how to do, right? And then so you need somebody with more experience to do that. And I found a mentor there. His name was Conrad, older dude. We used to always chop it up. He's the reason why I got like my general amateur radio license. I ended up getting a drone license through to him. So it was like cool. I learned about drones and like just my career path. Because I would just meet people in my job and older people and ask them. And I would just ask them like, hey, do you think a PhD is worth it? Like, do you have a master's? Like, people in industry, and they would give me their honest opinions from different sides. So, I mean, I'm that kind of person. Maybe other people may not be just so free and willing to, talk to people one-on-one, but I think that when you get into industry, the professionals who you work with, they want to give you that information. They want to share it with you. It's just nobody probably never really asks them, or maybe everyone around them has the same same level of experience and knowledge. So they're so they're learning from each other, not really imparting. So if you're young in the industry, and just ask, they want to share their experience. They want to get you up there.
That's true. Do you have any other questions?
Go ahead, yeah.
We are going to open it for people to ask questions on Instagram.
Okay.
We posted on Instagram, and we're going to have our guest Buddy. And everyone had questions, so.
People want to know about Buddy.
Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. Hit me.
So one of the questions that has been asked is, what advice do you have for transfers who feel out of place?
Ooh, transfer to. I definitely felt out of place. One thing is to be brave. The first thing is like, okay, first know that you have value because you're here, right?
Yes.
Like that's the value and you're here because you put yourself here. Nobody pulled you out of bed and brought you to school, right?
Yes.
You put in the work to get here. So that's why you have value, because you put that in yourself, right? So you're here because you're supposed to be. Just know that, right? Secondly, be brave, because there's others who may feel that way. And and there's others who do feel that way. I felt that way. So you're not alone. That's the second thing. And the third thing is, use that bravery to put yourself in the place where you want to be.
Yes.
You have to do it. You have to, even if it's a small thing, like speaking up a little bit, like, and sometimes you gotta plan the way you speak up. Like if you're, like, for example, right, my PI, right, our relationship wasn't the best, and there were some subjects that I wanted to bring up to him, and it was very uncomfortable for me because of his authoritative figure in my eyes and who I was. But I really planned out what I wanted to say, how I wanted to address it, and that gave me the comfort to approach it. So even if you gotta like write out if you be an engineer, right, you say these are all the possible responses this person could give me. This is not, even if you gotta take that time to do that, to put yourself in that space until you work up the courage to be more natural and flowing, do that, but you have to be the one to put yourself in that place, because you deserve to be there.
Yes.
That's the first thing I say.
Beautiful. I love that.
honestly nicely worded, and I would go by it too. Um, and another question that we've got is, do you have any tips on figuring out if a company is right fit for you or not?
Ooh, that's a big one. Do I have any tips on figuring out if a company's right for you? Well, I would say first you need to know what your values are, what you want from a company, right? Because I'm just gonna say, number one, we studied at UCR, great engineering school. I got a lot of interviews from people just because I'm from UCR, I think, like,
Yeah.
and just the lot of opportunities that UCR has with different industries. Big industries come here, and people that you'll find that people who you graduate with, they'll get top secret security clearances working here, or they'll do this here. So, um, the jobs are there because we provide, as engineers, we provide a very needed skill. You know, the U.S. is always trying to advance itself technologically, and the world is. So you're needed, and not a lot of people do it. So just know that you intrinsically have value because of the time and what you chose to study, right? So once you know, like, what are your values and what you want, then you can be choosy about the companies, right? Like, you don't have to take the company that come gets you unless you want to, right? You can say, you can really map out the goal of what company you want and see what they're looking for, and then match your skills with that, if that's how you want. Or, there's Reddits, or, you could contact people who work from the company on LinkedIn and say, hey, I'm thinking about working at your company. What is it like? And just based on them and other responses, you can figure that out. But I would say the most important thing is just know what you want in the company, and then find the company that you want to be in.
That's true. Because eventually you want to work in a place that you like and enjoy. It's not something that you're going to do for a couple of years or so. After graduation, for the most part, you're going to probably be working in the same sector for a long time. So being comfortable adds more to your happiness, to just the worth of what you're doing in general. Because money comes and goes, but your happiness in your life doesn't really. So we got another question. Are you ready for this one?
I'm ready for that. Hit me.
What's the main difference between going for a bachelor's and a master's degree?
Oh, okay. The positive, I feel like, is that in the masters with the professors that I had, they seem more passionate, more when they're teaching you, because they know that you're really here because you want to be here. They know that you're paying. So I think that they're from just the professors I've had, they're just a little bit more passionate, a little bit more into it, give much more detail, right? The difference is that in undergrad, like, they really hold your hand, you guys. They really, like, map it out for you guys. And you know what's crazy? They're holding your hand, but it's still tough, right?
It is.
It's still hard.
It's meant to be hard.
Yeah, it's good to be hard,
Yeah.
but they really, so in the masters, right? Like, you have to be motivated. Like, you have to read the text. You really have to study before class. You really have to, drive yourself to get the knowledge. Like, just kind of being there and kind of going through is not
Emotions,
it's not going to be enough. Like, you got to ask the questions. You got to meet with the professor during the office hours and have him clarify the thing, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to master a technique, a certain specialty, and what that really means. Like, yeah, you could get the paper, right? But I mean, what that really means is that you need to know much more deeply about this specific area than the general body of engineering. And that's going to take intrinsic motivation. That's not just going to be something that someone could just do on the board and then you just accept it. No, you have to feed yourself.
So the road gets more narrow, right?
Yes.
So your bachelor's is a little bit broader. It's generalized. You have general education courses. Your master's, you begin to narrow down the focus of really being the expert, to say, in that field and in that area. So you kind of have a little bit more focus. And then the PhD, it's like that one question, that one solution, that you are the only person that has studied that, right? Because you're doing all this literature review to make sure that nobody else has really tapped into that. That's where your professor and your PIs really come into the picture. So it's really about building up and narrowing as you go up, because you're getting to be more expert in that specific field.
Yeah.
And I just want to add more too. That's definitely true. And also the character and personal growth that comes with accomplishing these things.
Let them know. Let them know, buddy.
Right? Because I started, I didn't go the traditional route. So I noticed a change in my personality from not having a bachelor's to having a bachelor's,
Yep.
right? Like the way that I approached problems, how much more focused and diligent I was, how much persistent I was. I got that from going through the bachelor's process, right? And then the master's is another level of growth, you
Yes.
know, and I've seen it in other people who I know who have gotten, did the bachelor's and just went straight to the master's, like, you know, a friend of mine, Adrian, like, they're just, you just kind of, you just grow and develop as a person, you know, in a different way. And in the PhD, I can only imagine because of what it takes to actually get the PhD. Like, they don't give these things out, you know what I'm saying? So it's gonna change you in the process.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, totally.
Kind of following up on that question, would you recommend going into master's right away after your bachelor's, or would you recommend joining the industry and then going to master's, or having at least, because I know you said like having the internship experience really changed your bachelor's or how you viewed your bachelor's. Would you also recommend that for master's, or like?
You know, I would recommend this, right? I would recommend first, like when you come to UCR, try to get in the lab, right? So you get the research. In the summer, try to get an internship so you get both. I think that because all I really had was research. I knew I wanted a graduate degree because of the research, but I didn't know. But the thing is, I was like, I don't want to go to school that long, right? Because I think that was because I didn't have the industry knowledge. Because it just felt like I'm just sitting in a class and people are yelling at me. And I gotta, well, not yelling, but like people are telling me stuff, they're throwing stuff in my face, and I gotta remember and pass this test. I'm like, I gotta do this for another 4 years just to get a PhD, right? But having the industry after I got it was like, okay, this is the motivation because this is where they're really applying it. They're really applying it in groundbreaking things. So my advice is try to get experience in both in undergrad if you really can, right? So that you can really make that decision for yourself. If you don't have both, it's gonna be tough. Unless you're just one of the people who just know, like maybe you're like bred to be a PhD, maybe like undergrad is just a waste of your time and you just gotta do it and you're just doing it to feed people. But you know, and you just know like I really want this, then yeah, for sure. If you know, then you know, you know. But if you don't know, try to, and even if you do know, still do it so that you have the experience behind the thought. You know, you have the experience behind it. So that's what I would say.
That's really good. Since we're coming to a time crunch right now, I just wanted to end it with a question.
Okay.
If you can go back in time, would you change anything in the process that you've went through, or any advice to students who transferred over in general? Your last word.
Okay.
Go for it.
If I could go back in time, would I change? Nah, because I wouldn't. If I went back, I wouldn't have this game. You know, you know, it's the game. You know that I got from it that I'm not gonna that I wouldn't part with. But what I would tell myself is, just try to do the things that you know you should do sooner. Right? Like, I think that everyone has a conviction in themselves about what they should be doing and how they should be doing it, and try to find a way to get that done so that you don't really like beat yourself down about it, and like use your resources. Really use your resources. Whenever you get time, explore the campus, see what's on the campus, see what's really going on. Because when you leave, it's like, oh man, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have went here, or I wish I would have been a part of it. Just really take in and enjoy the moment because it's so short, it's so impactful, and it's a lot to just. It's more than just like studying and just getting the A. It's also about the friends, the communication, the personal development, what you do. So just know your resources and use your resources. Like make that's more important than anything, I think.
I totally agree with that. For transfer students, you have 2 years, 3 years in a university, and you want to make the most of it. So whatever you said, I was like, I'm graduating. I feel this. I feel this on a personal level too. So thank you for sharing that.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great.
It was a pleasure having you too.
Yep. So y'all can reach out to me. I come to the TTP Center anytime. Just let them know, hey, it's Buddy here. They'll let me know. If you don't see me, then I'll come and we could, chop it up, whatever.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Buddy. I appreciate your time. And we'll continue to bring you back for more events.
Cool. All right.
Sounds good.
Solid.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.